Welcome to the Amvest Capital Inc. live webinar with Global Energy Metals Corp. Global Energy trades on the venture as GEMC and as GBLEF on the OTCQB. Hope you enjoy today's program. It'll be available in on-demand mode in about an hour after we wrap up. And you can always find it at amvestcapital.com/replays. And a link to this live also works for the replay. Amvest, of course, is a New York-based specialist investment management and corporate finance firm focused solely on the natural resource sector. Very important calls, absolutely, positively, most definitely, for informational purposes only. And for all information is public and easily available. A few housekeeping tips, please. You can ask a question of management. Just go to that thing I just highlighted. Important links and downloads. You can get their stock quote and get the presentation, etc. This is another cool feature. You can share this event on Twitter and LinkedIn, or you can email it and it'll sort of auto-generate a message. So that's super cool. And of course, at the end of the show, simply fill this out. You can only fill it out once, but your feedback at the end is most appreciated. With that, we're going to move to our key presentation. We have with us Mitchell Smith, President and CEO of Global Energy, and Tim Strong, the Project Development Manager. So there you are. You've got as long as you need to tell the story, and then we'll pop back on with the Q&A and our analysts. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Campbell. Really appreciate you organizing this event, and of course, thanks to all the attendees for participating today. We certainly look forward to presenting, and both Tim and I, we've think there's a number of key initiatives that we have underway, and we think that will be very exciting to you as well. So for those of you who are unfamiliar or are new to Global Energy Metals, we built this company to act as an investment vehicle, providing our shareholders exposure to the increasing demand for battery metals that are really critical in powering the electrification movement. We're doing this through a growing portfolio of battery metal projects in safe, pro-mining jurisdictions that are in close proximity to infrastructure, workforce, and probably most importantly to the end-use regional markets. And we're doing that on three continents and 4 countries: Canada, the United States, Australia, and Norway as well. So the company has a really strong team. We have decades of experience in battery metals, and it's built by a team that has taken projects from discovery through exploration and development right to production and eventually sale. I've been fortunate enough to really surround myself and build the company's team with leaders who really share this passion and vision for the sector, and who are dedicated to building a go-to battery metals company. So normally I spend some time to introduce attendees on the macro reasons on why now is the time to be investing in the megatrend opportunity that battery metals present. However, in the interest of time, I'm going to assume that everyone here is familiar with battery metals like cobalt and nickel, lithium, copper, and why, although not exclusively, they're really driven by this rapid growth in electric vehicle manufacturing, and why the global market for lithium-ion batteries is expected to grow exponentially over the next few decades. And with it, obviously, so will the demand for the raw materials that are really critical to the electrification of vehicles and so forth. What I'd rather do today is really focus on our time today on the why global energy metals, and more specifically as to how you as investors and shareholders can really benefit from being a shareholder of Global Energy, especially given at today's valuation and the fact that really the market has, I would say, yet to really catch up on GMC's enormous growth potential, and that you may really want to consider looking at Global Energy and adding it to your portfolio and get in on the ground floor, very close to it, of this very exciting battery metals company. What I'd like to do then is really pass the mic, so to speak, to Tim Strong, who, as Campbell mentioned, is our project development manager, and he's going to spend the majority of today's time really on providing an overview of our project portfolio and detailing the work programs that are underway, and obviously the expected outcomes from that as well. Sorry. Trying to get back to this page here. So as mentioned, Global Energy really provides our shareholders exposure to battery metals and the overall electrification megatrend. And we're doing that through a three-pillar growth strategy. And that's really based on project acquisition and monetization. It's on exploration and development. And it's also on peer collaboration. You know, this is a proven strategy and one that we feel gives our shareholders a diversified approach to not only the sector, the commodities and jurisdictions, but it also minimizes dilution and also risk. You know, we're very excited to have been able to collaborate with a number of very strong groups. We have exploration underway, which again Tim will provide some information on, and you know, we've been able to acquire and monetize some projects lately, and I think again it provides some added value to our company. So to say the past several months have been extremely busy for us would definitely be an understatement. We've achieved some major milestones in the past few weeks and months, and we've completed on strategic acquisitions. We've monetized projects by entering into strategic partnerships, created royalties. We've joined battery-focused alliances. We've been able to enhance market visibility, and we're now well underway on exploration programs in the U.S. And Australia, including, of course, the first ever drill program at our Lovelock mine in Nevada. So I'm going to touch on a few of these points, as I recognize, you know, there's some people who are new to the story here today, and you know, I think it's really important to that these milestones are really laid out, given that we've been able to create a foundation over the past several months that will act as a series of catalysts that our shareholders can, that I think will be very much welcomed by our shareholders. So acquisitions really represent an ongoing effort by our company to assemble projects in key areas as part of the new energy economy. And you know, again, we're doing that in top-tier mining jurisdictions with both exploration and development upside. Sourcing and developing materials for battery production is something that is certainly key to our strategy, and we've done a number of these over the past several weeks. We were able to take a strategic interest in the Rana Nickel project in Norway, which is an emerging battery manufacturing hub. This is a project that represents one of the few drill-ready, low capex Class 1 nickel opportunities globally. has very strong mining potential and some exploration upside as well. So we think that it acts as a future source of material for the rechargeable battery sector in a growing European market that is really pushing for a regionalized supply of raw materials that are going into some of the major battery manufacturing plants that are being built in that Nordic region. So we're very excited about that. It caused some further excitement in the last little bit as it triggered interest by TSXV listed Electric Royalties, who we announced an agreement this week with us and the private company that holds the majority interest in the project to create an NSR royalty on that project. And not only do we get added equity exposure to Electric Royalties, who we've partnered with in the past, but we're also able to strengthen awareness about the RANA project and really attract further investment into to advance that project. We also closed on a couple of other projects, Chance Lake and Amiral projects in Quebec, as well as the Monument Peak copper-silver project in Idaho. And these expand our North American portfolio significantly and complement the existing 85% interest that we have in the Nevada assets and our Werner Lake project in Ontario. So we're continuing to evaluate M&A opportunities. It's certainly a core strategy for the company, and we'll update the market as we advance discussions that are underway on both acquisitions and further monetization of non-core assets. So I'm also excited to report on another one of our pillars, strategy pillars of the company, and that's on these strategic partnerships that are providing abilities for us to advance multiple verticals and really in doing so enhance shareholder value and market attractiveness. The first one that I'll mention is really a partnership that further endorses the potential of our Millennium Cobalt Copper project in Queensland, Australia. We recently welcomed the opportunity to partner with a group that's ASX listed called Metal Bank. So they're going to fund through an exclusive option to earn in and joint venture with us on a phased work program at Millennium. And it really presents as an opportunity for successful exploration and development of what we consider to be a very highly prospective battery metal project in a very good mining jurisdiction in Queensland, Australia. It monetizes our project. It will be able to unlock some unrealized value, and it's going to advance this through a sole-funded program of up to $3 million and really move the project forward in a non-dilutive way using the balance sheet of this third party without dilution to our shareholders. When I should mention too that at the end of that we would still retain a 20% ownership in the project. We would diversify our equity holdings through a sizable position in Metal Bank, which is a really well-managed company that's creating value through exploration success and further project acquisition. So again, Tim's going to go into more detail on what's happening with our Millennium project, but wanted to point that out. And something that I'm really excited about is something that we've been working on for a long time. And I've been saying that to people who've been speaking to lately that it's not every day that you get to really partner with people who have held executive leadership roles with top organizations such as Tesla and Facebook and Apple, and who've come together over the course of the last little while to answer the demand for skyrocketing battery technology. And this is exactly what we just did with our latest partnership with American Battery Technology Company. They're a U.S. listed company. Their ticker is ABML. And we're very excited to be working with individuals like Ryan Meltzer, who again, he led the research and development on battery application with Tesla. So we have an arrangement with them that we're supplying raw material from our Lovelock and Treasure Box projects in Nevada, and that's going to undergo ABTC's in-house procedure for developing a new first-of-kind process for producing battery cathode-grade nickel and cobalt metal sulfate. So, we're very excited about this. It aligns really nicely with the exploration program that we have underway right now in Nevada at Lovelock, and we also see this as a much bigger picture opportunity in that it's really an important step to transforming a much needed security of supply of minerals that can play a really important role in strengthening North America's push for mineral independence. There's been a lot of emphasis lately on creating a more regional supply of material out of North America, and this certainly fits with both the Canadian and U.S. government's push to do so. So definitely encourage you to follow this and follow American Battery Technology Company as well, as I think you'll agree that they're a very exciting company to partner with. So we've experienced some what I consider considerable growth in the business over the past few months and year, and made a number of several major milestones that, again, are the building blocks, I would say, to the next step value creation events for the company. And so we're looking to really carry this momentum forward, showcase these and future achievements, because there are a number on the way as we continue to execute on this three-pillar strategy of project exploration, project development, peer collaboration, and again, the M&A. So now I'll pass the floor to Tim, who's going to provide you with all the exciting things that are happening at our projects, what to expect in the coming weeks, and why now is really the time to be in Global Energy Metals before results from these programs are released. With a tight share structure, around 45% of it is held by insiders, many of which are in voluntary escrow. We think there's really an opportunity right now to for the share price to appreciate on this anticipated news that's coming out, the catalysts, and really the increased market awareness that's going to happen in the weeks and months ahead. So, Tim, it's all yours, and I'm happy to answer any questions during the Q&A. But I definitely encourage you guys to listen to Tim as he gives some updates here on our projects and all the exciting things that are happening. So, Tim, it's all yours.
Perfect. Thank you, Mitch. Appreciate it. As Mitch said, we're currently working on 3 continents in 4 countries: the US, Canada, Norway, and Australia. We're currently active in the US through our projects in Nevada and also Idaho, and also with our partners Metal Bank in Queensland, Australia. So those are the 3 projects I'm going to focus on and give you updates on today. The first project I want to talk about is the Lovelock mine and the Treasure Box project in Nevada. This is a bit of a special project for us because it's one that we're advancing solely on our own. And we are currently doing the maiden drill program for this project. As many of you will know, there's a bit of a labor shortage and a drill rig shortage in the Western US right now. So it took us a little longer than anticipated, but we managed to get in before the snow. We have 1,000 meters planned through 4 holes at the Lovelock mine. If I move to the next slide, you'll see that this is the first ever drill testing of this historic mine. The mine, for those of you that don't know it, reported grades of 14% cobalt and 12% nickel back in the early 1900s. The raw ore was shipped from California straight across to the UK. That's how valuable it was at the time. Mitchell and myself were out there last week, and we saw for ourselves, the extent of the underground workings that already exist there, and just the sheer amount of oxide material that is all over the place. I often tell people that the floor is carpeted in green from the malachite and the azurite. It's quite an impressive sight, and not one that you get to see very often. So over the past 2 years or so, we've conducted drone magnetics and ground IP over the project, as well as underground mapping and sampling. And this was the basis for our current drill program. As I said, with the lack of availability of drill rigs, etc., we've cut the program down to 1,000 meters. And what that means for us is we're drilling the four best holes. If I can draw your attention to the image in the bottom right, it's a little zoomed out. I apologize for that. But the Lovelock mine workings are in this area, and we're drilling 3 250-meter holes underneath those workings in a fan to try and understand the structural orientation and obviously repeat that high-grade mineralization that was previously found on the project, as well as hopefully targeting the underlying sulfide body. The fourth hole, is located here on a chargeability high, which again we think could be an extension of the system. Again, we're gonna drill that towards the structural orientation and hope that again we hit the sulfides there. The project, I think, has a really large scope to be expanded, and obviously once we've conducted these first 4 drill holes, we will get a much better understanding of the geology, the orientation of the mineralization, the style of the mineralization, and then use that to step out and expand the drill program. To the south of the workings, there are further geophysical anomalies that need to be tested, as well as really far to the north. Having taken a walk down south of the Lovelock mine last week, past an historic mine called Bolivia and another one called the Nickel Mine, just the sheer scale of mineralization that can be seen right from surface is extremely impressive. And we hope as time goes on and after the success of this drill program, we'll be able to expand, have a second drill program, third drill program, and develop this into a resource pretty quickly. If I show you the next slide, here you can see some of the terrain. There's the drill rig set out on pad 4, and this image here is the old Lovelock workings. You can see various adits where the old-time miners were working, and then this sort of material here is what we see all over the ground, underneath the ground. The walls in the adits are covered in copper oxide, cobalt oxide, and nickel oxide. It's extremely impressive. Obviously, the current drill program focuses on the Lovelock project, but just along strike is the Treasure Box project, which we cannot drill on this program due to the access with the current rig that we're using. But previous results from the project at Treasure Box have included 1.5% copper over 85 feet and 40 feet at 1.5% copper. And these drill holes were approximately 1 to 1.5 kilometers away from each other. The mineralization appears along a contact between the ultramafic rocks, and the overlying younger volcanics, and we can trace that boundary between the 2 drill holes. So it's quite exciting to be able to go in there, hopefully early next year once the snow melts off, in order to drill that. And I'm under the belief that we could build up a good sized resource there without too much effort. So that, looking towards the future at both Lovelock and Treasure Box, we anticipate a lot more drilling in Q1, Q2 of 2022. and hopefully we can look at getting some level of resource on those projects as soon as possible. Sorry. Moving on to our Idaho project, which we hold 50% with Dalrouge Consultants. Dalrouge are actually conducting the exploration program on the Monument Peak project as we speak. They are a team made up of exceptional geologists that know this part of Idaho extremely well. So it really strengthens our exploration at Monument Peak to have them conducting it and running things through. So to give you an update of what we've done this summer there, they've collected 557 soil samples, 13 rock chips, and they're currently completing a drone magnetic survey over the whole of the license. You can see on the image here, there are 3 pods of mineralization which have previously been identified. They've been identified mostly due to that's where the outcrop is. It's believed to be VMS-style mineralization, so a general consensus would be that these are 3 distinct pods. However, we think that there is a strong structural element within the system there, and that there could be some continuation between these pods and maybe even some joining up. So with this soil program, we hope we see something in between in the vegetated areas, and again with the drone magnetics, we expect to sort of prove that concept that these pods could join up. During the field season that the guys have been completing out there, they found 2 or 3 new trenched areas by previous owners that were not identified before, and these guys have been picking out rock chips, with 50 grams per ton gold, 250 grams silver, and up to 13-15% copper, right? So we're talking really high grade grab samples at surface, and obviously I'll give the disclaimer that these are probably preferential samples taken from the surface, but there is historical knowledge from some of the trenches there that this mineralization is real and it's extendable, and that's what we're following up there right now. So from a geological point of view, we're looking at a quartz phyllite based terrain, and it's again similar to the Lovelock and Treasure Rocks projects, considerable copper oxide staining along this sort of southeast northwest trend. So again, a very exciting project. We're waiting for the results to come in. The program was finished a few weeks ago, so with standard lab turnaround time, we expect to get those results back probably in the first couple of weeks of November. Then we will sit down with our partners there and formulate a plan for the next phase. The next phase here, I imagine, would be potentially further soil infill and definitely some trenching, if not straight to drilling, which would be my preferential methodology there. But like I said, that will come in mid-November once we've had a time to all sit down together and go through the results. Moving on to our Millennium project in Mount Isa, as Mitch mentioned, this is a new deal with Metal Bank, who again have an extremely strong geological team. Their chief geologist, Rhys Davis, was actually had a senior position within the Queensland government as a geologist, and Mitch and myself had reasonable amount of conversations with him regarding grants and funding. And when Rhys left the Queensland government and joined Metal Bank, one of the first things he did was call me and Mitch up and say, hey, let's do a deal on Millennium. So I think that, without even going into any details of the project, shows the potential that lies there in Queensland. For those of you that don't follow sort of government policy in Australia, the Queensland government at the moment is having an absolute massive push on new economy minerals. Think cobalt, rare earths. There's a massive drive to fund a domestic supply of these materials within Australia and especially within Queensland. So as a bit of a background on the project, there's currently a resource of 5.9 million tonnes at 1.08% copper equivalent. Those of you familiar with copper mines, open pit, that's, the tonnage there is a little low. So we've wanted to, for a long time, expand the program out, the deposits open to the north and the south and at depth. And from a logistical point of view, servicing this project from North America has been a little difficult. And then obviously with the COVID pandemic, we haven't been able to advance that. So for Metalbank to come in and say, look, we agree with you, we like the resource that's in place, we think we can extend it, was a fantastic opportunity for us. So as part of the initial engagement with Metalbank, they drilled 7 holes here in the southern part of the resource area. Their plan was to A, validate the resource, and B, see if they could fill in some of the gaps. Some of the results that they've received from this southern area include 16 meters at 1% copper, 0.26% cobalt, and almost 0.5 gram gold. And that included nearly 3% copper and 0.5% cobalt over a small interval within those drillings. One thing that drilling did was confirm the resource model that's already in place. And then they actually drilled in a gap and in a more shallower part of the resource, and they found copper and cobalt mineralization, which we hadn't found previously. So, they're already internally extending that resource out. The second area where they drilled 5 holes is here in the north. I joke with the Metalbank team because they drilled it RC and they said, well, we don't see any sulfides in the rock chips. It's a bust. There's nothing here. And I said, no, look, you guys wait for the assays. And then I got a call from their field geologist, and he said, you know what, Tim, you were right. We got 8 meters at nearly 0.8% copper, and another of 24 meters at 0.3% copper. Amazing. We didn't guess. So they got very excited around that. There's been very little testing of that northern area. So that's now going to be expanded with a new copper resource. I think the main takeaways from this is that the resource is there. It has expansion potential both to the north, to the south, down dip, and in the gaps which we'd previously missed. And according to the guys on the ground, the cobalt grades and continuity are some of the best that they've seen in the Mount Isa region. So with the massive push from the Queensland government to focus on these new metals, as well as having a resource here already and an easily expandable resource, I think the potential here at Millennium is fantastic, and we obviously look forward to seeing the Metalbank team progress this along with our support. So that's really a roundup of our 3 main projects that we've been operational on this summer and are still operational on. In terms of timelines, I'd expect us to finish drilling at Lovelock in probably the next week and a half. And then obviously with lab turnaround time, we're probably looking end of November to start of December to get the results from that. We will obviously update the market with pictures and videos of whatever we can show without obviously guessing numbers. But hopefully we'll have some nice sulfide chips to show you. And then the Idaho program, as I mentioned, the soil sampling is finished. It's at the lab. We're waiting for that to come back. And the drone magnetics should be finished in the next week or so. And the turnaround time on that will be pretty quick. So the news flow there is going to be pretty exciting. The work on the Millennium project, the Metalbank team are still waiting for gold assays to come back. So the numbers I gave you are just copper and cobalt. They haven't received the gold results back from the lab yet. So we hope to be able to update the market as soon as soon as they come back with that. And then, that's our three main core projects that we're working on right now. We also, as Mitch mentioned, we have the Rana nickel project in Norway, close to infrastructure, previously operating mine. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mitch, but until 2002, through a crash in the nickel price, it was left abandoned. Our partners picked it up. And now, obviously, with the nickel price sat where it is, this is a Class 1 nickel project with strong exploration upside. The Chance Lake and Amiral projects in Quebec, whilst being quite remote, do have a large potential for nickel, copper, cobalt, and PGE potential. Obviously, this time of the year, that the Lakes region of Quebec is pretty hard to do work on, and this is a project we picked up along with the Idaho projects with Daruge Consulting, and due to the weather at the moment, the focus is really on Idaho. And the final project that we have is the Werner Lake cobalt project. Again, this has sort of been on the sidelines for us, but it is still in the portfolio, and it is something that we could probably turn our focus to in the coming year, depending on the situation with the team, with the finances, with the budget, with partners. We would be very happy to have a partner come in and help support us here on Werner Lake and help bring it forward. It is an old producing cobalt mine, and it still has reserves under the ground. So we'll see where we can go with that. And like I said, I think we would very much like to have a partner come in and advance that at a quick stage. Mitch, back to you.
Perfect. Well, thanks very much, Tim, for the project overview and deep dive on the exploration activities. I mentioned earlier in the conversation that we have a very tight share structure, just over 27 million shares out. Around 45% of that is held by insiders and management. So certainly have skin in the game, if you will. Although we're cognizant of dilution, especially at these levels, but we will be looking to do financing here in the next short while. Use of proceeds of that will be for further exploration at our core assets, as well as some future potential acquisition opportunities and partnership arrangements. So, we will be updating the market in the time ahead here to announce a financing, I'm sure, as we would like to move forward with some of those initiatives that Tim was alluding to. So, I think just in the time that we have left, we'd certainly love to open this up for discussion and some Q&A.
Excellent. So everyone, you can just ask your question there, and I'll get to it. Some of the questions that were sent in have since been answered, but much as that you can discuss, do you think you're getting full valuations for all your assets? Some of them. What do you think?
Yeah, no.
Is there any one asset kind of seems to lead the way from the market perspective? What have you heard?
Sure. So yeah, no, I think as if you look at the portfolio that we've built, the team that we've assembled, and the sector that we're in, I'd say that we're not at full valuation at this point, and certainly with respect to what we've been doing over the last little while, we're really at the base of our growth curve, and we think that there's an opportunity for enormous potential here moving forward. If you want to get in the ground floor of a company that's really destined for great things, I think definitely consider adding Global Energy Metals to your portfolio right now.
Okay. Couple of other questions. Land tenure and royalties in Nevada and Idaho prices. Can you go into that in more depth?
Sure. So we in Idaho we have a 50% ownership working interest in the properties. The costs to hold these are relatively low. They're on BLM land. With Nevada, same thing kind of applies there. There is a royalty with the Nevada asset that is to Primus Resources, who stake the properties and we acquired them from them. What was the last question? Sorry, Campbell, on that?
So I guess any assets do you think maybe take the majority of your valuation, or are you think you're kind of spread out?
Yeah, no, I think there's if you look at the cost for acquisition of the projects, our Australian portfolio and the project and the strategic interest in the Rana, the Norwegian project, certainly have the most value within the company on a exploration development or on an advanced stage portion. But if you look at our projects in Nevada, there's a tremendous amount of upside on these. They've historically had some really significant cobalt, nickel, copper grades. Because of fragmented ownership, they've never been explored for using modern technique. And we're going in there now, putting in this drill program. We've done some pretty extensive field work, underground sampling, and surveys to really push that story forward. So we see a lot of value in the U.S. properties, especially given the impetus by the U.S. government to start securing and funding regional development of battery metal projects.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to pass it over to Adam.
Thank you, Campbell. Just going back for a moment. Your Idaho project is on BLM ground.
Correct. Yeah.
And then the Nevada project, is that you seem to indicate that was also on BLM ground?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. And okay. And I know you're focused on developing and exploring on your properties, but given the potential for new, quite significant federal royalties within the U.S., have you heard anything that battery metals and materials would be excluded from that royalty?
No, not that at this time. No, I think, but there's a huge drive for U.S. to shore up supply of minerals on home soil, or through collaborative efforts with allies, and Canada obviously being one of those. So I guess the short answer to your question is no, not yet, Adam. But I think given the push for critical metals, I could see those being excluded, or royalties be limited on that.
Just to follow up on this point, within the U.S., within the federal U.S. system, what tangible steps have been taken, if any, to secure any type of raw materials within the U.S.?
Yeah, and I chuckle there because there's this a lot of talk, right? A lot of talk about securing supply, about bringing it home and producing a material, and even more so on the refining and creating these battery manufacturing centers within the continental U.S. And it now the dollars have to start speaking to this, and money has to be injected into the development of these assets. And unfortunately, especially within the U.S., there's been a lot of projects that are not in my backyard and not wanting to have these done. But if the drivers of electrification and I mean the automotive industry or the battery manufacturing groups that are now starting to establish themselves there and want to secure that raw material, if they actually do try to get it from domestic soil, there's going to be a huge push for mining these projects. And again, capital is going to have to flow into these projects, and at various stages, not just necessarily projects that have already been advanced or have economics on them. These have to be projects from earlier stage grassroots exploration projects to be able to feed a supply of material for the decades to come.
Yeah, from a government standpoint, from a federal standpoint, I can't say that I've seen anything tangible either from the current administration or much from the prior administration to actually help projects in the United States, move forward, navigate permitting, streamline permitting, encourage them with tax incentives or anything else. It's just so far, quite honestly, I believe in the secular shift to electrification and the need for battery materials. I just haven't seen any tangible moves by the federal government to encourage that development. And quite honestly, if this budget passed and this new royalty, it's the opposite. So
yeah, and
throwing that out there.
And you're right. It is frustrating. I mean, and it is there is that risk, right? And again, part of Global Energy's focus is to diversify our exposure, right? And we have projects in different locations purposely for that reason. I mean, I think especially if you look at cobalt, for instance, I'll take it as an example. 75% of it is produced in one country in the DRC, and then 85% of it's refined in China. I mean, there's a monopoly basically on that commodity. So there's a need for diversification, and I think we've built that into our portfolio. We have projects in Australia, projects in Canada, projects in Norway, and of course in the United States. But as much as I share your frustration with some of the policies and such, I think I do think that there is going to be more emphasis placed on regional security of supply, and hopefully the U.S. government will advocate for that, and will be beneficiaries of that.
Well, I appreciate your optimism from a U.S. government standpoint. Maybe I'm just curious what your philosophy is as far as funding exploration. Obviously, you've got a number of projects here. Some of them are currently on the small side, with the potential to be, greatly expanded. Is the idea to, how are you budgeting? How much cash are you burning? What's your cash balance look like? And what do you consider acceptable sources of funding?
Sure. So a couple questions there, and I'll answer them. Try to answer them in order there, but I think Global's taken that partnership type approach where we don't have to own 100% of all of these projects, and I realize there's a number of them, and they all need a budget to be able to advance and move forward. So we've taken the approach where We don't need to own 100% of them. We want exposure to the projects. We'll take equity exposure in the companies that we partner with to advance these, and we hold a carried interest in the projects, but also have a carry on any funding or any capital requirements to move those projects forward. That's what we've done in Australia. That's what we've done with the Norwegian project. So using those partnerships, using their balance sheets to move those projects forward is definitely a very strategic move by us. There are projects that we do require or would like to see that be advanced internally. Namely the projects in Nevada, for instance, and so we've budgeted for the current drill program. We will, as I mentioned, be looking to do an equity raise here in the very near future, as we'd like to follow this program that we have right now underway with a follow-up phase and advance the project at Lovelock. We'd like to also further explore the Treasure Box project. So an equity raise is certainly in the very near future for the company.
Maybe a question for Tim. In regards to Lovelock and Treasure Box, any feel for what types of deposits those are, and what are other global analogous deposits to those?
Yeah, sure. So look, we believe that the Treasure Box deposit is an IOCG type deposit, probably structurally controlled, and then the Lovelock deposit is more of a late exhalative event, probably associated with that at Treasure Box. In terms of other projects worldwide, I think I've mentioned before on a few of these webinars that the IOCG model is so wide and open that it really could be anything. Like for me, Nevada, you think Carlin type, you think epithermals, you think shear hosted gold. There's no reason why this isn't just a shear hosted base metal deposit that's come through fractures and a pure just exhalative event. But I think, as far as the label goes, I think we're quite happy with IOCG. We see iron oxide, copper and gold, as well as cobalt and nickel. So, I think I'm quite happy with that until we've done some further investigation.
Yeah, I mean, can you think of some specific examples, that of an IOCG that look like Treasure Box?
I actually can't off the top of my head, because I think what we see here is pretty special. I think the amount of mineralization on surface here, and it's not locked up in an iron oxide cap as you would typically see in IOCG deposits. I think it's something that we can't necessarily apply a model to right now.
Okay. Let me flip it back to Campbell in case there's any additional questions from the audience.
A couple of people have asked you to elaborate a bit more on the American Battery Metal Partnership and just kind of how you see that developing. When do you think you might expect your first batch of extracted minerals for processing and then evaluating as well?
Sure. Yeah, and not to speak on behalf of American Battery, but they've been developing for the past 2 years and evaluating opportunities within sedimentary resources to evaluate brines. They developed a first-of-kind process that were specifically targeted at these type of lithium-bearing resources, and they've now recognized that nickel and copper are certainly very important to domestic production of those materials and are strategic. So they entered into this agreement with us, and they're going to undergo a very similar type of procedure in developing this new first-of-kind process for processing battery cathode grade nickel and cobalt metal from our projects in Nevada. So I think what's exciting about that is they're going to be able to use that information and to be able to market it to groups that they're partnering with that are on the end use side of the industry, to show that there's an opportunity for their process and our material to be used in the end market space. In terms of providing material, we've actually already provided them with samples. It's in their it's with them in Nevada, their labs. They're undergoing the process now. We'd expect to use some of the material that we're going to be drilling over the course of the next couple of weeks, and also provide them with some samples from that, especially some of the deeper material. So we think there's a real opportunity to work alongside them, and this is an ongoing partnership. This isn't just one off. It's something that we're keen to work with them for some time.
Excellent. It's an interesting question. Do you think your shares have benefited from the peer collaboration? And what other company shares does Global Energy own?
Yeah, no, I think there's been all of the various partnerships that we've entered into. I think that it's been certainly beneficial, and it's added exposure for different audience to be attracted to Global Energy story. I think there was a lot of interest by especially U.S. holders of American Battery Technology Company in Global, and we've received a lot of calls and emails about that partnership. The same with Metal Bank. The partnership with Electric Royalties. Again, we've been able to do another deal with them, and really, I would say further emphasizes that the projects that we hold have value, and value that hasn't been realized. So we're looking forward to working with all the partnerships that we have in place.
Okay. Want to thank everyone for tuning in and for sending in your questions and for showing interest. Would love if y'all could share your feedback in the next few minutes. But the replay will be available in about 2 hours after we wrap up, and you'll get it in an email, and you can always just go to amvestcapital.com/replays. If you like it, you should share this too. But I'll pass it back to Mitch to close us, and maybe kind of highlight some catalysts that maybe we should look out for in the next 6-8 months.
Yeah, I won't even go that far out, because there's going to be so many catalysts over the next few weeks with all the results, the drilling, these new partnerships that we've entered into. There's going to be a tremendous amount of news flow. I'd certainly again emphasize that battery metals trade has sent other names in the space really to some lofty valuations, and the market's yet to really catch up to our potential. So we're still, I would say, at a very attractive valuation for entry for participants, and welcome anybody to ask any questions they may have email, phone, Twitter, social media, please connect with us and we'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone, and goodbye.